I guess when I was 16 in Brazil, Jiu Jitsu started becoming more popular, and at 16. You're at that age where you're not really a boy anymore. You're not really a man either. You're looking to affirm yourself. I guess you're looking for an identity. I didn't have one, but I knew I wanted one really bad. And as Jiu Jitsu became more popular in Brazil, this was '98. I wanted to give it a shot, but I fell in love with it right away. In my first class, I trained with a woman, the girl. I actually knew her from school, and she beat my butt. And I had two thoughts. One was like, well, forget about ever picking her up, But the second one was, this stuff really works. But I think I'm a fairly competitive individual. I think that's one factor. Jiu-Jitsu is highly competitive and highly strategical. And I've always been more of a, when I was in school, I was more of a brainiac nerd than I was a jock, So to me, anything that had to do with strategy and, figuring ways out to beat your opponent with intelligence versus brute strength, that's something that attracted me. I was in Brazil at the right time, and I kind of jumped on the Jiu-Jitsu bandwagon early on. I'm part of the first generation who can actually make a living from Jiu-Jitsu. So in that regard, I was very fortunate. I think I moved here at a time where Jiu-Jitsu was very undervalued in Brazil. It's different now. It's changing, because UFC blew up in Brazil. But I guess Jiu-Jitsu has always been valued in the United States, and because that's what I do, I certainly appreciate that. I think that since I started training Jiu-Jitsu, I always thought MMA. To me, it was an extension of Jiu-Jitsu. I would have never felt complete and happy had I not given it a shot. And I don't mean to disrespect anyone who just sticks to Jiu-Jitsu. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just me. It's a personal ambition. I would have never been fulfilled had I not given it a shot. So when I train in a gi, I thought of no-gi. When I train no-gi, I thought of MMA in the future. And I always wanted to have, a very forward game. And to me, it was about, I'm not going to play the card that, I only go for submissions in competition. I think that's nonsense. I hear that all the time. I only go for submissions. Nonsense. You go for the win. Have I stalled in competition? Yeah, I have. Like everyone else I know. It's not something pretty, but you do what you got to do to win, right? And I've always felt that. But Jiu-Jitsu, always felt that Jiu-Jitsu, the goal was the submission. I've always had a very aggressive Jiu-Jitsu. I can say that, and I can say I'm fairly dangerous in pretty much any position. Or I know guys that have a deadly closed guard, or a deadly mount, or a deadly side control, or a deadly footlock, but they're not necessarily dangerous in different positions. I feel like I'm not necessarily a specialist at anything, but I can be dangerous almost anywhere. So I think that's one thing that helps in MMA, because you can't always determine where you're going to end up, even within grappling. You don't sometimes end up on bottom, sometimes end up in side control and half guard, and I like to think that I like to develop a jiu-jitsu where I can feel dangerous anywhere. I've asked myself that question many times, of why did I decide to do this? It's interesting that the time I always ask that question is when I'm running sprints on the treadmill. That's the one time I'm questioning myself and I'm going, what am I doing? There was never a moment throughout my jiu-jitsu career where I fell out of love with jiu-jitsu. In fact, I think I like it more now than I did when I was 16. You're not, even if you don't know what you want to be, you have a good idea of what you don't want to be. You don't want to be common, you don't want to be average, you want to be excellent.